So Jeff and Kathy are co-authors of a book currently in production entitled Intentional Courtship. Wait, it's not in production anymore.
It is.
Yeah,
For 2 more weeks.
we've been perfecting it for a year,
Okay.
and it's about to come out in just a few weeks.
Intentional Courtship, a mid-singles guide to peace, progress, and pairing up in the Church of Jesus Christ. Jeff and Kathy each spent nearly a decade in the mid-singles community and draw on this experience to provide counsel and hope for the reader. They've recently founded an organization called Love in Later Years, willing to provide hope and guidance to Latter-day mid-singles seeking peace, healing, and more joyful relationships in the future. Jeff and Kathy are the parents of a blended family that includes 4 handsome sons and 1 lovely daughter-in-law. Jeff is an attorney and co-founder owner of Tigert Law Office, earning his bachelor's degree in family science at Brigham Young University and receiving his Juris Doctorate at Brigham Young University in '94. He earned a postdoctorate Master of Laws degree at the George Washington University Law School in 2008 and was a highly endorsed candidate for the Washington State Court of Appeals in 2006. I'm going to jump a couple of things. Authored numerous professional articles, co-authored with a family science professor entitled Value of the Law in Shaping Social Perspectives on Marriage, and presented at 2 international conferences. Kathy is a professional violinist and Suzuki music teacher. She is the owner and founder of Kathy's Violin Studio and a string quartet known as Strings of Excellence. She earned her bachelor's degree in family science at Utah State University, and prior to that attended Rick's College on an orchestra scholarship where she earned her associate's degree in interpersonal communications. She toured China with Weber State University Orchestra and is currently serving as chair of the Suzuki Association of Utah's Violin Celebration Concert for 2021.
Which is happening tomorrow.
I saw that. You've got like hundreds tomorrow. So anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
All right, we're down to about half of the amount of time we were allotted, so we'll try to do this the best we can. By the way, a little update to my bio. I am now working in the Constitutional Defense and Special Litigation Division at the Utah Attorney General's Office. So,
And I just wanted to let our listeners know that Love in Later Years, all of our stuff can be found on our website, loveinlateryears.com. Loveinlateryears.com.
all right, and so we want to talk about how strong families come in all shapes and sizes, because the proclamation on the family talks about the family as the fundamental unit of society, and a lot of people feel left out when we talk about that.
Yeah. And Love in Later Years is meant for anyone beyond the possibility of a first marriage in their 20s. That's when love and relationships tend to get more complicated.
okay.
All right, so we want to talk again about how strong families come in all shapes and sizes.
And we're to our next slide.
And we're talking about things like single parent families, empty nesters, step and blended families, of course, widows and widowers, even couples without kids or singles without kids. And of course, we know that kids are adopted, and I have a bunch of cousins that are adopted.
Well, and they come in all shapes and sizes, truly. We actually threw this question out, what shape does your family come into our Love in Later Years group? And one person said, well, I have, an adopted child, and I have my stepkids, and I have my original kids, and then we have an open adoption. So their family's ginormous, and they don't all live together. But then there's sometimes single people who still need a tribe. They still want a sense of belonging. We all need that.
All right, so we begin with suggesting that people need to find peace. That's foundational. Almost all mid-singles and later married couples deal with the effects of trauma. That we typically think of a major car accident or bullets whipping by our heads in battle or something. However, we just heard Dr. Finlayson Fife talk about how, what if every time the kids saw dad try to kiss mom, she pulled away? Well, there's an effect on dad there too. And there have been many divorces that I know of where that little hurt, that little trauma has gone on over years. And that's trauma too. So We'll talk more about that. Finding peace by releasing trauma. Radical acceptance can hopefully stop trauma before it starts. Do you want to explain radical acceptance?
Yes, it's one that we would have been a lot better with as we healed from our divorces had we known about this concept. It's accepting the reality for what it is and not wishing it were different, not fighting against the reality. It's just accepting what it is. And it really helps. I used it quite a bit in my dating years as a mid-single when the end of a relationship would occur, a dating relationship. And I've found myself, tempted to go into
Describe what it is.
So if you're ever tempted to go into ruminating and thinking about something that happens over and over and over and maybe losing days of your peace to something like that, if you just realize this is what happened, this is what is, it's happened, I'm just not gonna let it get me.
Right. And we're not gonna tell ourselves it wasn't supposed to be like this. I wasn't supposed to be divorced. I wasn't,
Right. In fact, we could even say, it may not have been what I expected, but this is actually the way it's supposed to be because it is the way it is.
My former wife used to say that if you ever want to give God a good laugh, tell him your plans.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's EMDR and other therapies that can help release that trauma from the body. And we teach about thought work that helps us intentionally choose thoughts like it was supposed to be this way. This is my path, that can be more supportive and helpful.
And this goes into the model that we use. And we created this during our time getting certified through the Foundation for Family Life when we were doing our life coach training. So basically, you take the facts of your life, which are verifiable circumstances without any judgment attached to them, and you separate that out from the stories you tell, the perceptions you have about those facts. And most of the time, our stories, we think they're facts. Our brains are really good about convincing us that our stories are facts. And they're just stories, they're just thoughts, and we can accept them or we can change them as from what they are currently. And they ultimately create the emotional energy that we bring to our lives. Emotion and energy can be mixed around, sometimes, so it will create feelings and then, our vibration is affected or our vibration is affected and that affects our emotions, right? So those are interchangeable, but they're, different. And our behaviors, the actions that naturally flow from our energy and emotion. So we can willpower our way through whatever we want to have happen, and try to get the outcomes we want in our lives. But it's so much easier if our stories about the facts create the energy and emotion we want that naturally then flow to the behaviors and outcomes we get.
An example of a story is an interpretation or a judgment, like it wasn't supposed to be this way. He was too young to die, whatever.
And I just want to note also that it's very, very important to have self-love and compassion as part of this work, because awareness is only empowering as long as we observe it with curiosity and a willingness to change, but not putting ourselves down or keeping ourselves stuck in whatever we're aware of now that we're thinking about our thoughts more. And we've got a great podcast. It's Lily Pod episode 11, if you want to check that out on our FCBO model.
We are proponents of self-care and self-care rituals. Self-love, of course, is the foundation for all loving acts. And self-care allows us to show up in healthy ways in relationships and other venues. Helps us to prevent exhaustion and resentment. Kathy's got some big time experience with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So being in charge of a 500 person concert has been a big task, and I've gotten resentful a few times, and every time I realized I wasn't taking good enough care of myself. And if I just stop and go for a walk, feed myself, get some rest, I can show up as a superhero rather than a victim of this, calling that I agreed to take on. I would so much rather be a superhero than a victim of a choice I made.
Yeah, and she also had a lengthy illness following her mid-single years, shortly following, where being a busy single mom, running a business, financial pressures, all of that were very pronounced. And, we empathize with a lot of mid-singles
Yeah,
who experience that.
Well, and I want to actually advise against being in superhero syndrome, which is where we get burned out. So when I say superhero, I mean a recharged, like ready for action superhero because you've taken care of yourself enough that you have got the energy for it.
In terms of centering, we like the word shalom. Shalom is translated from Hebrew into English as peace, but it means more than that. It actually means wholeness, restoration of the broken pieces. So when we're emotionally upset, we want to get back to our shalom.
Yeah, and people center differently. Some who are introverted will probably center by themselves. I'm more like that. I need time away from people. And others will center with their friends.
Feeling that support. Spiritual progress. We don't have time for a long explanation on these two prayers, but one thing I would like to point out on the Lord's Prayer, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Of course. Yeah. So hallowed be thy name. We need to separate the holy from the common. And what is holy to our family members? What is something that is sensitive or sacred to somebody else, not just in a religious sense, but also in the sense of what they personally are emotionally invested in. Give us this day our daily bread. Our daily bread, I believe Jesus was referring to manna, which was given to the children of Israel daily as they were wandering through the wilderness. And as you may know, they weren't allowed to pick up manna more than once a day, except for on the eve of the Sabbath. They could pick up 2 days worth, so they didn't have to go out and gather on the Sabbath. But I think this allowed people to recognize their daily reliance on God, rather than if they could go out and store up a lot, they would say, well, through all my hard work, I'm now prepared. And that's not what God wanted at that time. He wanted them to recognize their daily dependence on him. They had probably been dependent on the Egyptians for a long time before that. So what does that mean to us? It's about our daily reliance on God for everything we have, everything we need. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And of course, that's super important in blended families, because there's, you're blending two different cultures really, and we've got to be forgiving and flexible. And then lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil is sort of universal, and we rely on God for that too. You want to start this one?
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Serenity helps us achieve acceptance, and acceptance of the things we cannot change brings serenity. And we just talked about shalom. It's a Hebrew word translated as peace, but it's more than that. It's a sense of wholeness, fulfillment of mind, soul, and heart. It implies a restoration.
Right. And restoration is an especially important theme for mid-singles and single parents and widows and people who feel like they've lost a lot. And so
people who have in fact lost a lot and then have, of course, their own stories around that loss. And hopefully those stories can, if they need to, shift to something more empowering that creates more shalom and peace and sense of wholeness.
And what is empowering under the Serenity Prayer is to focus not on all the things we can't change, the political situation in the country, or go down the list of things. My former spouse's conduct, there's nothing I can do about it. But if I focus on what I can do, I can take care of myself, and then I can take care of my children. I can be out dating if I want to find a new relationship. but it's focusing on the things we have control over, not on the things that are out of our control.
And there's almost nothing more frustrating than that, because if you don't have control over something, you literally can do nothing about it.
Pairing up with our tribe, that includes a partner, but it also includes blending families. I have 2 stepchildren. Kathy has 2 stepchildren, which are grown. We also recommend pairing up with wise mentors. One of my former dating partners, who was a beta reader for our book, said that's where the brain trust is for newly minted mid-singles. It's people that have been down that path and have lived experience. And
for singles who don't have children, pairing up with like-minded, loyal friends who become your chosen family. I know while I was single, my best friend lived with us, and she was part of our family for a long time, like 10 or more years. She lived with us and she was part of our family.
And then she married one of Kathy's former dating partners.
And that's a great story, but we'll share that another time.
How are relationship rituals? Now, I want to explain this concept with a story. When my first wife and I were married, about a year, we moved to the Samoan Islands. And I was serving as a law clerk to the Chief Justice of American Samoa. And the job was amazing, and living on this tiny little island was really cool. But the job didn't pay very well. And I usually spent my lunch hour the day I got paid going through all the bills and subtracting and really budgeting it down to the penny. But then generally we were out of food by that time. So that night, my former wife and our baby would come and pick me up from work, and we would go food shopping. Now, at that time in American Samoa, the biggest grocery stores were about the size of a good size 7-Eleven. And so you had to go to 6 or 7 different places to get all the stuff you wanted. And so it became a ritual for us. Our baby at that time is now 26, but anyway, we spent the whole evening driving around our island, shopping, getting the things we needed. And during these shopping trips, we would talk and connect. And during those moments of connection, we would watch the sunset over the South Pacific. Really amazing. You drive through these little villages with these little brown kids, 30 of them playing volleyball or playing cricket or swimming in the ocean. And they're all cousins. And so really kind of cool, idyllic little thing. It gave us a chance to explore our beautiful island, hopping between grocery stores. And especially in those early days, the shopping trips with my former wife were something I always looked forward to. And it was kind of a mundane task, but it became a ritual for our family. Now, the first time she ever told me that she didn't want me to come shopping with her, I might as well have found her in bed with somebody else. I mean, literally, it was that big of a blow, because that was a sacred ritual. Even though it was a common task that everybody does, we did it in a certain way. It was one of those things that we had looked forward to. We want to suggest that rituals have a tremendous bonding quality in a relationship. Christmas morning is another one we put up on the board. And for a blended family, it's important to be intentional about creating rituals that will bond your family and help you to establish an identity as a family.
Well, and same thing with single family parents. So single mom, single dad. I know when I was a single mom, my kids were young, and we'd do parties. Like we do theme parties, and it was not hard and it was not expensive. Anything I called a party, they were so excited about. And that was one of our rituals.
Right, and those are bonding. And I remember having road trips with my sons when I was a mid-single. And I did those specifically because I wanted us to have a family identity. I didn't have a lot of money at that time, but did what we could, get in the car and go up to Yellowstone. And we would stop at Denny's at 3 o'clock in the morning. That was part of our ritual. So here's the other thing. Because they're powerful, we need to be intentional in the way we use them, and we need to respect them. So, for example, Christmas morning isn't the time to bring up to your son or daughter the failing notice you got from their school. It isn't the time to talk about your brother's drinking problem. You know, we put all that on the shelf during a ritual and realize we are celebrating something rich and meaningful.
And for dates, that's the time to put aside any conversations that are stressful, because we want to have a good time. Like Jennifer Finlayson Fife was talking about, we want to increase our capacity for pleasure in the healthy ways that are available in our marriages. And we can ruin those opportunities if we're not cognizant and intentional about how we're showing up in those rituals.
Right. And let me point out, sort of in conclusion of this part, that not every moment is a ritual. We don't want to overstate this, because if everything is holy and nothing is common, then everything is common. And so we're looking at rituals as being a special kind of moment that we repeat in a particular way, and that we all recognize as being something
And
special.
for some people, grocery shopping wouldn't be one, but it could be for someone else.
And those mean to your partner and to you. You are mine, I am yours, we're together. And so that's important. Our God is a God of rituals. We have the rituals of baptism and confirmation, and temple ceremonies for those of us that are Latter-day Saints, and they bond us to God. We can develop rituals in a blended family or a single parent family to help establish our identity. All right.
So joyful family traditions are similar. We think of these, I think, more along the lines of holidays, but they can be also a time to talk and connect, date nights for couples.
And as a stepdad, I do the same thing I did with my own sons. I take my stepsons out once in a while, just me and them, to have a time to connect and bond. I might get them dinner. They might, get to pick out a toy at the store. It seems like a minor little thing, but they look forward to it. And it's something, I think a poignant moment for them.
So this is how you find us, loveinlateryears.com. And all of our products are through Lily, which is the acronym of Love in Later Years. Our book, Intentional Courtship, we have not officially announced this, but we believe it will be November 5th. So in 1 month, it'll be out.
Right.
On ebook and probably hardback. That's a new option that we're exploring right now.
All of these references can be found at loveinlateryears.com. Any of you that want to take a picture of that, feel free to do that. But
and please come follow us on Facebook, Instagram. If you're interested in getting life coaching training, you can contact us through our website. We also send weekly Lily letters by email, and we have a YouTube channel and a podcast, Lily Pod, where we post things every week.
Right. Anybody have any questions or comments?
No, you guys are awesome. Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As one of those, I think I'm the only person in here besides you guys that, has have been divorced.
Mhm.
And, your slide with the shapes and the different families. Knowing all of this stuff and all of the information you have, and it's good. I've been single for a long time and had dated people that were all divorced like me, and was thrown for a loop when I was prompted to date a widower, and had to learn to deal with a little bit different dynamics.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I can certainly understand how, like your Facebook group, all of the people that are in there, want to come and get information and learn how to cope or interact or deal with a very different trauma than I've ever experienced. I mean, when you get two people together trying to date or trying to create a relationship that have such extreme, I mean, such a dichotomy in their traumas, it creates a little bit different hurdles than some people have. So,
At one point, I was dating a couple of people who'd never been married,
mhm,
and that's also different.
yeah,
But we have
Whole
all,
different feel.
and we have all of those. I mean, those are the three ways in which we become single, right? We either don't get married, or we get divorced, or we lose our spouse to death, right? So, and we have all of those in our group, and it's really great to hear from all of them and their experiences, and they've gained a lot of wisdom through their experiences, and they share that with each other.
awesome. Thank you. I have two daughters that out of the blue recently both kids, and so this is good information for when they're ready to start dating and how they move forward in their life, because this has been very, very traumatic for them.
Yeah,
And
well,
how
and
we do
the
it as a group,
first
we would love
first
to have
8
them.
chapters of our book actually are related to peace. So incidentally, this presentation we patterned after our book, which is Peace, Progress, and Pairing Up. I mean, we went a little different direction with it because we were focused on different kinds of family dynamics. But it's a great book for them now because they can start with that first 8 chapters and then just wait on the dating and relationship chapters until they're ready.
Yeah.